Ah, Vermont, known for its picturesque landscapes, delicious maple syrup, and almost becoming part of Canada? Yep, that's true. There was a time when Vermont seriously considered hopping over to join our neighbors to the north. You might be wondering, why on earth would Vermont think about joining Canada? Sure, Canada has its charms, but we've got plenty going for us right here in the USA. Well, in the late 1700s, Vermont was in a tough spot financially. The state's economy was struggling, and folks were tired of barely scraping by. They were desperate for a solution. So when Canada floated the idea of joining their federation, it piqued the interest of many Vermonters. They saw potential benefits and wanted to explore the idea further. For one, joining Canada would have opened up a bigger market for their goods. At the time, trade between the US and Canada was limited, and Vermont was having a hard time making ends meet. By joining Canada, Vermont could have tapped into free trade and reached a much larger audience. And don't forget the idea of equal representation in the Canadian Parliament. Vermonters were pretty disillusioned with their current government and liked the thought of having a say in Canada's system. I mean, who wouldn't want to be part of a nation where "a" and "sorry" are part of everyday language? Then there's the appeal of the Canadian healthcare system. Seriously, who wouldn't be tempted by no more worrying about skyrocketing healthcare costs or being denied coverage for pre-existing conditions? Sign us up! Jokes aside, Vermont saw some real potential in joining Canada. In fact, it was a group of Vermonters who made the first move. They contacted Canada and proposed a union. In 1780, a delegation of Vermonters traveled to Quebec to meet with Canadian officials and discuss the terms of a potential union. Surprisingly, the talks went well. The two sides agreed on several key points, including free trade and equal representation in the Canadian Parliament. But when the Vermont delegation returned home to present the agreement, they faced stiff opposition. Despite the potential benefits, Vermont ultimately decided to stick with the US. Can you blame them? Who wants to deal with the hassle of filing taxes twice a year? In all seriousness, there were valid reasons for Vermont's decision. For one, there were concerns about how the other US states would react. Upsetting the neighbors, especially those with bigger armies, is never a good idea. There were also fears about losing control over their own government. Vermonters valued their independence and didn't want to be swallowed up by a larger entity. Making group chat decisions is a nightmare, right? And then there was the slavery issue. Canada had already abolished slavery, while many US states still allowed it. Vermont was a free state, but joining Canada could have drawn them into the messy politics of slavery. In the end, Vermont decided to stay. But you know what they say, once you go maple, you never go back. Okay, maybe no one actually says that, but you get the point. Vermont and Canada may not have ended up together, but they still share a special bond. After all, who else can appreciate a snow-covered landscape and a hot cup of maple syrup quite like they can? And who knows, maybe one day Vermont will get the chance to live out its Canadian dreams. Until then, we'll just have to enjoy our maple syrup and Ben & Jerry's. This quirky piece of history highlights a broader theme of regional identity and economic survival. Imagine an alternate history where Vermont is part of Canada. How would that have reshaped New England's cultural and economic landscape? It's a fascinating what if that makes us think about the fluidity of borders and community resilience. As we sip on our maple syrup-infused coffee and dig into a pint of Cherry Garcia, let's remember this near-miss chapter in Vermont's history. It's a testament to the state's tenacity and its unique place in North American history. So next time you're admiring Vermont's rolling hills and charming towns, think about how close we came to calling them our northern neighbors. If you found this video insightful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and let us know in the comments what lessons you think we can learn from this period. Don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth analyses of important historical events. See you in the next video.